Bushwhack outlined action being taken by the Portland city government to avert and avoid violence in the Portland area. He spoke to the fact that county and state governments are working very closely together. I must re-emphasize his words. 3 days from now, Portland will be host to two groups, and they couldn't be more dissimilar. Their simultaneous presence here has already generated tension and could trigger violence. We will be tested to the ultimate. It is my responsibility as your governor to inform you of the background of the situation, the planning accomplished to meet it, the standard of individual conduct expected, and the certain consequences of failure by anyone to observe that standard. The American Legion, of course, needs little description. Its history spans a half-century. As an organization, the Legion is dedicated to preservation of the nation's established political system and traditions. It is strongly oriented toward military strength and preparedness as an essential element of national policy. At the opposite pole is the People's Army Jamboree. It is, by its own statements and its own publications, anti-establishment and anti-military. Its motto, World Revolution. Its supporters seek a broad spectrum of goals, ranging from peaceful protest to bloody violence. That the American Legion Convention and the Jamboree are occurring at the same time is no coincidence. The Legion members are here as invited guests of the city of Portland to conduct their annual convention. The Jamboree is here to confront the Legion and for no other purpose. The Jamboree, first called the Revolutionary Festival of Life, was spawned last spring. It was activated and publicized originally through chapters of SDS, the Students for a Democratic Society, on college campuses across the country. Planning by this group for a massive confrontation with the Legion in Portland continued through the spring and early summer. Concerted recruitment of persons to join the Jamboree, primarily through the underground press, began nationwide in May, and it still continues. On July 6th, I asked the Jamboree not to hold their gathering simultaneously with that of the American Legion. I warned of possible violence, saying in part, I urge you to reschedule the People's Army Jamboree. My request was summarily rejected. I've kept the Jamboree under close surveillance since its inception. Periodic intelligence reports, evaluations, and briefings have involved the Portland Police, sheriff's units of Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington counties, the Oregon State Police, the FBI, the U.S. Secret Service, the Postal Inspection Service, the National Guard, and the Department of the Army. Their conclusions were clear. Large numbers of young people were coming to Portland to confront the American Legion. The question was, how should we deal with the situation? Federal intelligence indicated early this summer that upwards of 50,000 young people would be coming. While the Jamboree's planning is directed toward confrontation, great numbers of young people are being attracted to Portland, but not coming to riot or to burn or to kill. They're coming to peacefully exercise their constitutional rights. Our reports were, however, that some would seek to manipulate others as pawns to trigger serious and possibly violent confrontation. This was the setting for polarization facing Oregon earlier this summer. By then it was obvious, should the anticipated numbers arrive, Portland simply could not deal with the situation. In consultation with civic, church, and local government leaders, and with the advice and counsel of the FBI, I committed our resources. As governor, I agreed to do all I could to prevent tragedy from breaking out in Portland. Out of those discussions, over many weeks, has emerged a comprehensive plan. It's a positive, effective, and responsible approach to protecting the lives and property of all in Oregon. That, I believe, is what government is all about. In this situation, we have prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. If the objective of averting conflict is not achieved, we are prepared to put down any violence that occurs, and you may be well assured that we are well prepared. True, intelligence sources do report that we may be dealing with fewer people than our estimates of a month ago indicated. But law enforcement officials, state, local, and federal, agree that a strong likelihood still exists for violence in Portland. Based on their recommendations, I am activating units of the Oregon National Guard in sufficient strength to safeguard life and property. It is my hope that this will be an insurance policy, that this action, along with others already taken, will dissuade those who would come to Portland to incite violence. If they come in spite of our preparedness, we have the ability to act quickly and decisively to uphold the laws of our state. We cannot afford the risk of after-the-fact activation. Our commitment to law and order has not tempted us to infringe upon the constitutional rights of Americans to peaceful assembly, to freedom of movement, to nonviolent dissent. That, too, is what government is all about. While we're prepared to deal with violence, keep it clear that our first priority is to avoid violence. It is within this framework, avoiding violence, and upon the strong urging of local, state, and federal law enforcement officers, that Vortex I emerged. Vortex is an activity planned and sponsored by a group of responsible young people, financially supported by an organization known as People for Portland. This financial support has been committed from literally every major business in the Portland area. Law enforcement officials agree that such an activity is needed, and it was upon their recommendation we surveyed the entire four-county area and we granted the use of McIver State Park. Law enforcement officials stressed the danger of thousands of young people roaming in bands through the residential areas of Portland at all hours of day and night, restless, without a home base, without any planned activity whatsoever. Vortex was a conscious and direct response to the problem of suddenly trying to absorb those thousands of young people into the city of Portland, young people without a place to stay. There will still be some who want to thwart authority. With many of these, reason and option are of little or no value. To these people, I want to say tonight, the state of Oregon, the city of Portland, and the surrounding counties do not want violence, but we are fully prepared to protect our citizens. We've prepared the resources necessary to fulfill this commitment. This is not a rattling of swords, this is a statement of fact. The laws of this state and this community will be upheld. To those who understand this statement, alternatives are available. To those who choose to ignore this statement, less peaceful alternatives are in store. Vortex was authorized as a safety valve, as a defusing mechanism for reducing the numbers we have to deal with in Portland. We can say to those young who are truly dedicated to peaceful disagreement, go to McIver Park or to Delta Park, which the city of Portland has now approved for overnight occupancy. These are your alternatives to milling madness. People of Portland, made up of major business leaders, members of the clergy, concerned volunteers of all types, is working in a variety of ways to avoid confrontation. One of its activities is a rumor control center. The telephone number is 233-2531. If you have any questions now or during the next week, I strongly urge you to contact the center, because rumors running wild can do more to harm our communities than anything short of violence itself. People for Portland also are training people to stop trouble before it starts. So far, they've trained in excess of 500 citizens from this area, but they may possibly need more, depending upon the numbers of visitors coming into the city. I strongly urge interested citizens to join with them in this effort. And note that additional training sessions are going to be held at Lincoln High School tonight, Wednesday, and Thursday, beginning at 7:30 p.m. The primary responsibility professionally, of course, belongs to local law enforcement agencies, the officers and men of the Portland Police and the sheriff's deputies of Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington counties. In immediate support will be a substantial contingent of Oregon State Police. In further support will be contingents of the Oregon Army and Air National Guard deployed in and around the city. Some units will be assigned to crowd control. others to protection of vital public facilities. The crowd control groups have been carefully selected and thoroughly trained. Each guardsman will be armed in a manner appropriate to his specific assignment. The poise, the attitude, the effectiveness of these citizen soldiers should be really reassuring to all of us. Significant of their attitude, our Oregon Guardsmen chose to code name their assignment Operation Tranquility. It's extremely doubtful that anything will occur that can't be adequately controlled by these units mentioned, but nevertheless, substantial numbers of federal troops are prepared to respond to my call for assistance. Detailed operational, logistical, and communications plans have been developed for all units. Similarly, detailed plans have been developed for medical evacuation and treatment, for the jailing of large numbers of people, if that should become necessary, and for prompt judicial proceedings for any arrested person. Our planning seeks to avoid violence. Our planning will also respond to violence if violence occurs. I hope it does not occur, and whether it does or not depends on you. Let me speak first to you, the Legionnaire. As avowed targets of political confrontation, it is only reasonable to expect that some of you will become objects of taunting, of verbal abuse, of inflammatory gestures, of obnoxious provocation. The purpose of such acts precisely is to evoke your reaction, even possibly in the hope that you will react violently. Those who seek violent confrontation measure their success in resulting violence. And don't give them a victory. Don't let them use you. Don't be a tool of these radicals. Let me speak now to you, the resident of Oregon. Just as the Legion may be a precise target for confrontation, the community at large is a general target. Many of you, too, will be subjected to the same provocations by those who seek to disrupt. Don't give the provocateurs a score. Just as I asked the Legion, I also ask you to resist the temptation to let fly. Let me speak now to the young person. Much of what I said by implication casts on you the long, dark shadows of those who seek violent confrontation and world revolution. I know that most of you are just as opposed to violence as I am. I know that many of you are visiting here just to have a good time, just to be where the action is, or just because you're curious. But let me point out that you too can be used by those amongst you for bloodshed. It's a deadly game. Please don't be a pawn in that game. And now you of the People's Army Jamboree, you've repeatedly stated that your objective and purpose is peaceful protest. You ask for the opportunity to publicly protest, and you will have it. You've asked for a place to assemble. You have been granted it. You have repeatedly insisted you will not provoke violence. Now you prove it. To each of you, I want to be sure I'm not misunderstood in asking for patience and understanding. Most certainly, I'm relying on your goodwill to maintain tranquility during the time of tension. While I ask these things with sincerity, it should be made clear that actions to the contrary will not be tolerated. Violence, no matter who perpetrates it, will not be tolerated. It will be put down vigorously, promptly, and with absolute certainty. Speaking for the citizens of Oregon, with the solemn resolve to maintain the peace, I want you to know we are willing to accept honest dissent and peaceful demonstration. And I'm just as firmly resolved we will not tolerate violence toward any person or toward any property. I think in judging us, the future cannot say that city, county, and state officials and leaders of the business, professional, and religious communities failed in the test of cooperative teamsmanship, or failed in their thinking to neglect any preliminary precaution. For weeks now, we've been doing the thing best calculated to serve the public interest, perhaps not flawlessly, but to serve it so as to minimize to the greatest possible degree the risk to life and property and to Oregon's image as a most hospitable and law-abiding state. Hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, this will be the Columbus Day storm that never came, But if it comes, let me assure you, Oregon is prepared.